We're back, bitches. Boom. We got a UFC Fort Lauderdale post-boom show with none other than a Boomachino coming to its end. It's sad to see, but cheers. We had a good card, man. Good main event. Jacare versus Hermanson. I personally thought that Jacare was going to come out victorious, watching his last fight against Weidman, how crispy he looked on the feet, especially with how good Weidman looked. I talked about that in the preview show. It was Hermanson took the fight on short notice too, so that was really impressive. I mean, it goes to show what kind of momentum could play a role in these fights. And Hermanson, coming off that win against David Branch by submission, almost landed that same guillotine against Jacare. I think that would have been a shocker for people to see. Jacare defended it well. Jacare was going to the body, ripping shots on Hermanson, who was, keeping that poker face, Joker poker. It was interesting because Jacare, it seemed like both of them kind of took moments off in the fight to conserve some energy, but Hermanson had a crazy output overall in the whole 5 rounds. He outlanded Jacare. His jab was crisp. He was putting out a lot more volume. And Jacare seemed to be fading a little bit, hands down, but he was constantly walking forward. So Hermanson had to stay on his toes, keep his movement, and try to avoid those big shots because Jacare was trying to leap in with some hooks, and he really was catching him to the body a bunch of times. And I was surprised that didn't really hurt Hermanson as much as it looked. It looked like he was digging in there. So props to him. Really set himself up for a really big fight next. I think, a title contention fight, maybe a Romero or a Chris Weidman or a Kelvin Gastelum. I'm sure he'll want to take a little bit of time off, so that'll make some sense, because Gastelum's coming off that hard fight against Adesanya. He needs some time to recover. Weidman's still doing his thing, I think. I don't know if he's still recovering with injuries himself. And Romero's probably actually looking for a fight soon because his fight with Costa's getting pushed out. So unless they end up matching those two together, we'll see what they do. But man, Hermanson's looking great. He really was putting that volume on Jacare. It really was impressive how he was able to move and avoid the big shot. And, the takedowns started to get negated. It seems like, most people don't want to go to the ground with Jacare, but Hermanson was like, I'm good. He stayed in his guard, and he landed that effective ground and pound, kept his position. It's different in MMA. If you roll with a high-level black belt in just jiu-jitsu with no strikes, there's a lot more success to be had. You're not worrying about someone elbowing you in the face or punching you in the face, and that kind of chaos causes for a lack in confidence in taking your time, being patient on your back in MMA. It just doesn't really work like that. I'm more so in MMA trying to get up as quick as possible because especially with the judges, if you're on your back, I mean, unless you're throwing up submission after submission, most likely the guy on top is winning by points in the judge's eyes. So it's one of those things where you can't really sit on your back and stay that confident. I always say, like, once I do jiu-jitsu and I add strikes, my jiu-jitsu becomes way better as a fighter versus just a straight jiu-jitsu practitioner. It changes up the whole game. It really is a whole different dynamic. So that's the same with wrestling. If I wrestle with a wrestler, I struggle, but if I spar with a wrestler, I do a lot better. I can actually land some takedowns, because I'm setting it up with strikes. I'm keeping them aware of strikes coming. It's they're standing straight or up, and things come unexpected when there's all different kinds of setups like that. So Hermanson had no problem. He had no struggle in Jacare's guard, and to be honest, Jacare was really hesitant in his guard. He wasn't really throwing up any kind of submissions or even trying to like elbow him from his back or try to hurt him or try to get up. He showed no urgency from his back, which is a problem in MMA. And Hermanson was able to score points and keep landing some ground and pound to the body, to the head, and came out with the victory. So props to Hermanson. Curious to see who they match him up with next. We'll see what happens. Co-main event, my favorite fighter, just kidding, Greg Hardy, I don't know who that bum was that they put him in there with, but obviously they want him to come out victorious after that first fight. It seemed like this guy just bum rushed him, tried to take him down, literally ran forward to try to get a takedown. And then once he got hit once with that uppercut, which landed flush, he just curled up in a ball and pretty much just gave up. It was really weird. It looked off. It didn't look right. He didn't look that hurt from the punch. It seemed like he kind of just quit. And that's never a good look when something doesn't look natural. And, he just kind of curled up, and Greg Hardy was throwing punches from the top, but he wasn't even really landing them. The guy was covered up, but just kind of turned over and gave up, and the ref stepped in. So I don't know. Hopefully they match up Greg Hardy with someone who is, a little bit more of a real fight, a real test to see where he's at. Because obviously he's a big name, and they're throwing him in these co-main event slots, which I think is kind of bullshit. But it is what it is. It's part of the sport. It's part of the business, really, not part of the sport. But the UFC wants the guy to win, obviously, because that does justice for them to move him on slowly and keep giving him headline fights in the co-main events, whatever it is. Obviously, people want to see the guy lose. I feel like the majority of people, so they're watching, and that's all that matters, man. Eyes on the fucking game, right? Helen Yee, baby, champ. Where's the schmo at? I need an interview with the schmo. Is anybody out there feel like the schmo has kind of like a Nardwuar effect to him? I feel like the Nardwuar's guy who used to interview rappers and stuff like that, he'd have like really cool questions and everything. He had like a nerdiness about him. I feel like schmo swag jacked him a little bit. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know. But yeah. Also, we had Sandhagen versus Lineker. I had my eyes on that fight. That was a really interesting fight. I picked Sandhagen to win because I knew he had the style to beat a guy like Lineker. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Lineker does not really get hurt, and he's not fazed by anything in there, and the guy hits like a fucking truck. So, Sandhagen, props to him for being able to take those shots, especially to the body. I feel like those landed more. Lineker went to the body, to the head. He mixes it up really well. And he has a very, very tricky way of leaping in and covering distance without you expecting it, because he's so short and he doesn't have the longest reach, but he makes himself seem longer by the way that he crashes distance in the air almost. Like he leaps in with those hooks and it covers way more distance than you would imagine. So, Corey Sandhagen was sharp. He was sticking that jab. He landed a flying knee, which was nice. And, surprisingly, Lineker actually went for a takedown. That was a different thing that we've seen with Lineker. I mean, for the most part, he likes to bang in the pocket, but he actually shocked him with a takedown and got one, and it wasn't really too effective. It wasn't like he passed the guard and landed some, big strikes from the top, but it was cool to see him actually change up his game a little bit. And then Sandhagen was in trouble at the end with that guillotine, and that was a cool finish to the fight. You see blood just kind of squirting out of his nose because Lineker was squeezing his head so hard. But yeah, Sandhagen had the perfect game plan, man. He used his reach really well. He switched stances. He threw good straight punches. He landed a lot of volume on Lineker. I actually thought Lineker landed the harder shots and threw more shots altogether, but it looked like maybe Sandhagen's shots were just a little bit more effective with how they landed, directly to the face. Lineker's shots a lot of them were blocked by Sandhagen, but the way they sound is just like slap, slap. So I don't know. You never know what these judges are seeing. Close fight. I think Sandhagen barely edged it out on the scorecards, and that's how it came out. So you can't complain about that one. Great fight though. We'll see where they move Sandhagen up now. See if he fights someone in the top 5 area now, because I think Lineker was like number 8. So yeah, I mean, looks like that they're gonna move that guy along fast. Especially beating a guy like Lineker, who's only really lost to Dillashaw as of late. So big win for Sandhagen. What else did we get? Who else looked good? Oh, man, Glover Teixeira. That guy he fought, Uwan Kutalaba, was fucking throwing bombs. And Glover Teixeira, if it felt like it took him time to actually start to open up. It was like he was giving the guy too much respect, and he was kind of being shy about letting go. And then once he realized he was in there with a murderer, he was like, "All right, well, it's either me or you, and I'm gonna throw some bombs now because you're trying to kill me." And I have to understand that, so I have to try to kill you now. It seemed like that with Glover, and then once he started opening up, as he started landing big shots, and I actually predicted exactly what happened in that fight. It was pretty cool to see, like, once he got in the clinch and got that takedown, I knew Glover was going to be in a different world on top. He's got great ground and pound. He's good at passing guard. He stayed resilient. And he was passing guard. He took the mount a little bit. Guy gave up his back, and he got that rear naked. And it seemed like the guy just wanted out. As soon as he got around his neck, he was tapping already. So that was cool, man. Glover's he's a veteran, man, and he's still doing his damn thing in there, which is really impressive. You know, he's taking his losses, but he looked better than ever in that last fight. So that was cool to see. Still doing his damn thing. Another thing that was really cool was Jim Miller finally brought his kids to his first fight after like 30 UFC fights, and his kids and his wife were front row, and they got to see him win. It's always cool to see that. You know, you don't want to see a guy lose his first time he brings his kids out. You know, it's not the best look, but I thought Jason Gonzalez was a really hot prospect. That, you know, his fight against Gregor showed a lot of promise, because Gregor runs through everybody, and he was actually giving him a pretty good, you know, good test. So I thought he was going to do really well against Miller with his length and his size. But Miller looked good, man. He's a veteran, and he's still doing his damn thing too. You know, 30 UFC fights or whatever he's had, and he's still getting big wins. One of those guys that'll fight anybody, a fan favorite. He's in there scrapping always. You know, he's an aggressive, vicious fighter. So people like to see him. He's very well rounded. He throws those elbows. His kicks are dangerous, and he's a black belt on the ground. And we seen that in this fight. He got the submission win. So you can't fuck with Miller on the ground like that, man. You can't let him get you back. So props to Miller. Cool to see the family in the house cheering for him. His kids looked happy to see him get the win. So that was awesome. Oh, and then we got Platinum Mike Perry beating Cowboy. Those two were fucking having a blast. They were dancing around, salsa dancing. It looked like Platinum was dancing to Oliveira's song when he was coming out, and I thought they were going to just start dancing once the bell rang. You know, I thought they were going to start salsaing in the middle of the cage, but no. They went at it. They fought hard. Perry looked really good. He looked sharp. He looked patient. He looked like he was taking his time, not rushing anything like he has in the past. Obviously, I was a little worried in this fight going in that maybe Cowboy would take him down and utilize his jiu-jitsu, seeing that, you know, the other Cowboy submitted Perry, so maybe he was going to try to take advantage of that, but we didn't see much ground game going on. Perry's really strong in the clinch. Both of those guys have a lot of physical strength, but Perry's short and compact, and man, he lifted him up and threw him in the air. He really expends a lot of energy that like doesn't necessarily need to be used, but he's cool with it, and he's just ruthless, you know. And you know, I'd actually like seeing a fight with him and Robbie Lawler. Tell me what you guys think about that. I don't know if that makes sense right now, but man, that would be a cool fight to see now that I said ruthless. Because both of those guys are fucking powerhouses. But he called out Darren Till after the fight. I think that's cool to see because, let's be honest. You meant the fucking spa? You want to go to the spa? I thought you meant spa. No, I meant spar, bro. So, yeah, I mean, they've already sparred or went to the spa, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that would be cool to see those two fight. You know, I feel like they're kind of friendly, but it would be like a friendly banter going back and forth. And obviously, Till's in a little bit of trouble with the law. Hopefully, he gets out of that crisp and clean, and we see a Till versus Perry fight. I think that makes a lot of sense right now for the division. You know, Till coming off a loss, Perry coming off a win, but Till is up in front of him in the rankings, so gives that guy a chance to put himself up in the top tier. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, man. UFC Orlando was a pretty good card. not much else to say, you know. That's all I really wanted to cover, to touch up on. And that's the boom fucking post show for you. We'll see you guys next time for the next card. I believe it's the one I should have been on, but fuck me, right? UFC Ottawa, May 4th. I, Quintus Cerrone, will get a pre-show, a pre-boom show coming at you before that. Stay tuned. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, BrianBoom135. If you give me a thumbs up, really appreciate it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Boom.